Good afternoon. Welcome back. How's everyone doing? I'm Miles. Let's do some music. This is episode 2 in my new series, Theory Thursdays, and the topic that we're going to be discussing on this particular Thursday is time signatures. So you've probably heard at least once in your life a drummer start off a song by clicking his sticks and counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the band jumps into the song. This is basically, in a live setting, acknowledging the time signature that the song that's about to be played resides in. Time signatures basically serve as the framework that define the type and the amount of notes that you can fit into a single measure of music. Now, for those of you who don't know, a measure of music is the contained space between bar lines that exist on sheet music. So the notes that would exist within those spaces, between those vertical lines, that space is what a measure of music is. Now, as far as breaking down what a time signature truly is, let's look at it for what it is. You got one number on top, and then there's another number that's right beneath it, like fractions. To put it simply, the bottom number in that key signature represents the type of notes that are within the measure. And the number on top represents how many of those notes you can fit into a single measure of music. The most common of time signatures you'll find is 4/4, otherwise known as common time. But there's other variations on this same idea. You can have what's called cut time. The numerical values that exist in a time signature don't have to be over the number 4. It doesn't have to be the equivalent of 4 quarter notes. But before we get too far into all that stuff, let's check out what we can do with just 4/4 time. Now, for today, we're mostly going to be talking about simplistic time signatures, or simple meters, as it's referred to in some cases. So we're not going to be getting into compound meter or anything too elaborate just yet. I just want to set the initial framework just to make sure that you guys understand what exactly a time signature is and how it works. So let's check out some examples. So for the first example, let's start with 4/4 time. So 4 beats to a measure, those 4 beats being represented by quarter notes. Now, you don't need to just keep 4 quarter notes to a measure in order for it to be within 4/4 time. You can use other note durations that'll still work as long as it equals up to the same amount of time within a measure as 4 quarter notes. So you could have 4 quarter notes, you could have 2 half notes. You could have 2 quarter notes and 1 half note. You could have 8 eighth notes. You could have 16 16th notes, and so on and so forth, with numerous variations available. Now, as I said before, you don't have to stay with 4/4 time. You have other time signatures available. There's 2/4, otherwise known as cut time, where you have 2 quarter notes to a measure. You have 3/4 time, otherwise known as waltz time, and that's 3 quarter notes to a measure. But again, doesn't have to be just 3 quarter notes. You can use other note values within that same space, as long as it equals up to the same amount of time. Additionally, you can have time signatures such as 6/8. In some cases, you'll find pieces of music that are composed in 12/8 time, as in 12/8 notes to a single measure. And you can interchange the top numbers for different amounts of beats that fit within your measure. So you can have a measure of 5/4, or 5/8, or 7/8. If you look at a song like Pink Floyd's Money, that is a song that is written in 7/8 time, as David Gilmour describes it. I think it's 7/4. Now, technically, for every note value that exists, there's a time signature that corresponds with that. However, you're never going to see a piece of music that's in 4/1 time, as in 4 whole notes to a measure. That it defeats the purpose of calling a whole note a whole note. Typically, a whole note takes up the space of a whole 4/4 measure of music. But for every other note value, there's a time signature that goes along with that. So you could have a time signature where it's 2/2, as in 2 half notes to a measure. Or you could have 2/8, which is 2 eighth notes to a measure. You could even have a measure of music that's in 11/32. But, I mean, if you have that, you're a monster. And so that's all you really need to know to get yourself initially acquainted with time signatures. It's really not a difficult concept. It really just comes down to counting, as does music in general. In future videos, we're going to talk about more complex things like compound meters and things of that nature, and what are called ties, where you would have a continuation of a note over a bar line into the next measure. But for now, you have the basic idea you need in terms of understanding what time signatures really do. I thank you so much for checking out my video. If you like what I'm doing and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It just makes it easier for people to see the video further up in their feed on YouTube. And if you want to support my channel further, I'll leave links to all that stuff down below, like my Patreon and everything else. Additionally, if you sign up on my Patreon, all the sheet music and examples that I use in these videos will be available to you in the form of a PDF to download over there. So consider it. But other than all that, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys once again. I'll see you in the next video. Keep playing. Peace.